Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is the outlook for 2024 for the world and India. In this article, the writer says that as 2024 dawns, global risks and uncertainties are likely to increase, reminding us that we are living in a time of great peril. The new year can be expected to be even less safe and uncertain than the previous 2 years. An unfortunate aspect is that the existing order is being challenged as much by architects of the rules-based international order as it is by persons who declare it outdated. Existing geostrategic contradictions are likely to intensify. The war in Ukraine, though stalemated at present, could well become highly combustible as 2024 progresses. A Biden victory in the United States presidential election may depend on the way the war in Ukraine turns, as a decisive defeat for Putin's Russia, even though this appears unlikely at present, would boost his chances. Ukraine's Zelensky, conscious of the sagging support for Ukraine in Europe and elsewhere, could well attempt a last throw of the dice and resort to desperate measures. Mr. Putin, for his part, may be tempted to go to extremes, not including resort to suboptimal nuclear weapons, to secure a victory in Ukraine. A heating up of the Middle East cauldron caused by Hamas's unprovoked assault on Israel on October 7 this year has the potential to light a prairie fire in 2024. This could singe many more countries in West Asia. The situation is not helped by the West's hypocrisy, which seeks to draw a fine distinction between the violence practiced by Hamas and the precise targeting of so-called Hamas troublemakers by Israel and the Western alliance. The situation is already accelerating changes in the geopolitics of West Asia, where battle lines are gradually shifting. Iran, Russia, China are already extending support to nations across West Asia, thus challenging the West's leadership of the global strategic commons. In this backdrop, the West would be well advised to act with care in other regions, such as the Indo-Pacific, to avoid upsetting the existing strategic balance. For India, 2024 holds out many possibilities. The general election is scheduled for mid-2024, and the ruling disposition is displaying reasonable confidence about the outcome, greatly buoyed by its recent election victories in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh. However, this does not preclude the existence of some black swans which may need to be attended to, especially as far as the economy is concerned. Keeping track of China, the region's Sino-Indian relations will remain stalemated during much of 2024, with neither side showing any accommodation of each other's viewpoint. China remains convinced that India is already a part of the US-dominated anti-China alliance, which is acting as a major impediment to any improvement in relations. A direct confrontation between India and China, however, appears unlikely during 2024, even if China's economy continues to decline, and the West harps on this fact as an index of diminishing China's influence across the region and beyond. There is a weak possibility of China embarking upon some adventurous actions in the Sino-Indian border regions. The next article is a new economics for inclusive growth. In this article, the writer says that Raghuram Rajan and Rohit Lama's book, Breaking the Mold, Reimagining India's Economic Future, suggests that India should abandon its policies to build its manufacturing sector and export more high-end services. This is surprising as India has been trying to do so in the last 30 years with poor outcomes. Insufficient jobs and incomes are the Achilles heel of India's economy, and farmers demand better prices, informal sector workers, fair wages, and social security. The economy cannot be in good shape when 60% of Indians, across castes and religions, are classified as economically weaker sections, entitled to job reservations. The obstacle to India's growth is the mismatch between skills, jobs, and incomes. India invested in world-class institutions of science and engineering 70 years ago, and the Indian Institutes of Technology enabled India's software industry to become a globally competitive force. They also produced CEOs for US multinational companies. India's space program delivers results at a fraction of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's costs. However, India's pattern of growth, with investments in high-end skills, has not generated enough decent jobs for India's masses. British economist Adair Turner pointed out that too much reality was being left out of economists' models for them to explain the world. He warned that the great danger lies now with reasonably intellectual men and women employed in the policy-making departments of central banks and governments, who tend to gravitate to simplified versions of the dominant beliefs of economists, who are still very much alive. Economic theories developed by analyzing numbers miss realities. Most economists do not understand the process of learning, where citizens learn new skills and increase their incomes, and nations acquire capabilities they did not have before. An agricultural worker is willing to apply his intelligence and labor to a new job, but cannot take much time off from working and earning to learn new skills. If the next job is near his present habitation, he will save living costs too. Adjacencies in work and location in rural areas are the best steps for climbing the skill income ladder. Manufacturing is performed not only in large capital-intensive smartphone factories, but also in small, labor-intensive and small value-adding services. The next article is a case of revanchism. Courts should not stray from the constitutional vision of secularism. In this article, the writer says that the Allahabad High Court has ruled that a set of suits led in 1991 for a declaration that a part of the Janvapi Mosque in Varanasi as the property of Lord Vishweshwar is not barred by law. The court has decided that the old suits are not barred by the Places of Worship Special Provisions Act 1991. Which invalidates legal proceedings that may lead to altering the status of any place of worship. Instead, the court allowed a full civil trial to decide whether the structure in the Gyanvapi compound is a mosque or a temple, and stated that unless this status is determined based on evidence, it cannot be called a temple or a mosque. This approach may only drive modern society into a revivalist mindset, seeking to avenge medieval depredations. In the case of the 2022 suits by women worshippers, the court noted that the proceedings were aimed at asserting a right to worship the deities on the mosque premises and not to convert it into a temple. However, the 1991 suits explicitly seek a declaration that the main part of the site is a mosque and want the mosque administrators to remove all their religious effects. The court upheld the order for a survey of the premises by the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, but asked for the ASI survey to be done on the basis of the 2022 suits for the purpose of determining the 1991 suits. The next article is Law of Numbers. The government should not use its majority to rush through legislation. The 18-day winter session of Parliament in India marked a new low in the country's legislative democracy, as the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party refused to engage with the opposition, evaded executive accountability, and passed a battery of bills with far-reaching consequences for the country. A majority of opposition members remained suspended, with 46 Rajya Sabha and 100 Lok Sabha MPs suspended in the final count. Leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mallikarjun Kharge, wrote to Vice President of India and Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar, stating that the suspension of opposition MPs was predetermined and premeditated by the government. The absence of any application of mind was evident, and attempts by Mr. Dhankar and Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla failed to ensure smooth conduct of the session. The government passed new laws that rewrite the criminal code of the court, regulate telecommunication, and appoint the Election Commission of India. The common feature of these laws is an unprecedented increase in the power of the executive, and it was not a coincidence that they were passed without meaningful parliamentary debate. The government blamed the opposition for bringing the suspensions upon itself, and this position has been echoed by the Speaker and the Chairman. The case of alleged misinterpretation of Mr. Dhankar by an opposition MP was a distraction that was convenient for the ruling party. The effect of the debate on the security breach by a few misguided youths was to derail parliamentary functioning and obtain a free pass for the executive.